Welcome back to the next video, and let me just say this. Things are getting so complicated now in the circuitry that we're trying to do with this microprocessor. Oh, today we're going to go over the opcodes. We're going to go over, I did make a computer called Luna, as you'll see, and we're going to go over the program that I have it to run right now for a little demonstration. Next week we're going to go over probably the GPU a little bit more, and then we're going to go over the I/O system. But the I/O system is going to be incredibly hard because I have no idea how to wire up and interrupt properly. But this video is already, you can see the complexity that is evolving with it, and it's exponential. Like the video before this was complex, this one's so much more complex because now we're going into the CPU and we're trying to code it and make sure it all works properly. And so you'll see it too. But let's get into the simulation. Roll the intro first, then we're going to get into the simulation, and you're going to see how complex it is. But thank you for watching, because I love teaching this type of content to people out there, because I think microprocessors are the greatest invention that humans have ever made. But let's roll the intro. So welcome back in the simulation, and as you can see right here, oh boy, we have a lot going on. I made substantial progress off camera, and that's because we're at the point in the series where it's not, at least to me, it's not really clear about what the next steps are. So if I did make a video, I have to speed it up a lot, because I know how to make an ALU, I know how to make registers and all of that, and I can do that fairly quickly now. But making a whole CPU is very complex, and especially coding it. So this is the progress that we have right now. I did start a little bit in the GPU, but the GPU, I'm going to completely redo that because I do not like the way it functions at all. It's very, very bad. But look, this is what we got. So I mean, as you can see, pretty much the only thing we have is this dot that's like going, you know, across the display, which is pretty easy. All we're doing is sending an address to our little segment right here, and then we are writing it, and then we're gonna reset it right before we write, so it looks like it's moving like this. And essentially this is what it does. And so the code for this is very simple. Actually, the code for this is pretty simple. I'll explain it real quick, and then we're gonna go to where we left off, which is the 808. Okay, so I want to explain the code. The code's only 11 things, but essentially we're just kind of like saving numbers. We're adding one, and then we're doing it. So, okay, enough with this. Let's go and see the progress we made on the 808, which is the control unit, because that is where we left off in the last video. So we're going to go to the, I'm going to save this real quick because this works pretty damn well. Let's go to the 808. Oh boy, it looks different, huh? It looks a lot different. So first things first, I messed up in the last video because I did do a little bit of off-camera work, and I didn't really explain myself what I did. So let's go into the ALU. ALU is pretty much identical except for these inputs. I made it an 8-bit array input just to save space on the ALU and try to save wiring to make it look a little nicer. Then we have these SR latches right here. So essentially, if we wanted to add, it's going to remember, hey, I'm in the add state. And if we want to reset it, we can just press reset right here. And so that's what I did, just to keep it the code a lot nicer. And then we have our register cell array. Again, if you remember, we had all these registers at the top. I didn't really like the way it looked. It was a little clunky. So essentially, I just added them all into one like this. And then we have a buffer register. We have a temporary register. So if you remember the other video, there was temporary registers in the 808. It turns out that they are quite handy to have in a CPU. So now we have this temporary register 2 right here that we can use whenever we feel like it. And it goes directly into the ALU, and then its input goes directly from the bus. So we can store our numbers in these registers, and then if we need to access it, we can just kind of pull it out whenever we want to. Another thing that we change is the program counter. So I don't know if you remember when I made the program counter video, I was like, oh, this is probably going to be an issue because when we save it, it takes a little bit of a second. That's essentially what this circuit does right here. So as soon as the save goes high and we increment it, and it automatically jumps to it. And so we don't have that little like glitch in the middle where it actually caused a hell of a lot of troubleshooting whenever I made this. So that is all the changes I can think of as of right now. We took out the instruction register. We did not need that. Yes, that's it. So now, up here too, we added a little T flip-flop. So, instead of an SR latch, so we can control whether the data tri-state buffer is on or off. So we're going to have to remember it's stayed at all times. But the SR latch was causing like this in-game like storage simulation glitch, and I really did not like it. So I just added this flip-flop. It's a little worse because now I have to memorize what the state it is, but it's fine. It's just the SR latch we used to like save the state was just so glitchy. So I just got rid of it essentially. Control unit. Let's go to the control unit. So this looks complicated, but it really isn't because the control unit is just taking a lot of inputs and kind of like outputting it as different stuff. So like we just have to do a lot of converting essentially. That's really all we're doing. We're converting a lot of different stuff into other different stuff. So let's go through the logic. Essentially, this is a 5-bit input to 32 output, and then we have this 4-bit input to 16 output. So that will give us a total of, let me do the math real quick, 48 different opcodes that we can essentially program into this. And so we're on 39 right now, which is, so we have a little bit more wiggle room if we want to add some stuff. This right here, this AND array, is for our program counter. So if we want to jump, if we do want to do some jumping, it essentially all goes down into this one, and it's for different jumps. So we have like a jump if it overflows, the ALU overflows, a jump if it's negative, a jump if they're equal, greater than, less than. And that's what these ANDs are for, and that's what this ALU input is. It takes the flags from the ALU and essentially makes this little logic statement. So we know, hey, we need a jump if it equals this. And this one right here is just our normal jump, so like jump no matter what. The rest of these you can see, this goes to our registers, this is our save. This also goes to our registers to enable certain registers. This one goes to our ALU to control what math operation we're doing. The rest of these are just kind of like random. I'm going to show a little screenshot, or I'll show a screenshot and explain the opcodes too, because I have it all written out on paper, which helps a lot when I'm coding it, because if I want to save to register A, I just look on the paper and I was like, oh, register A is opcode 1. So then I type opcode 1 in the memory, and so whenever it goes up, it'll just save the register A. 0 is nothing, so if there's nothing in the control unit, it does absolutely nothing. Trying to see. That's pretty much it. Now let's look to see how this works, because it's pretty much a fancy decoder. So we're just going to keep going down and keep going up. Okay, so we already have this 2 decoder, 2 to 4-bit decoder that we made for another unit. I can't really remember what it was, but making decoders in this simulation sucks, because if I had to make 48 outputs and I have to like make these AND gates and NOT gates that only go on for certain numbers, that would be a nightmare. So we can make something called a cascading decoder, which is essentially what we have here. So we have this and these ANDs lined up in this enable pin. So this decoder is only on when the enable pin is on, and then it can cycle through its 2 inputs. So if we take 2 cascading decoders together, we can get an 8-bit output from two 4-bit outputs and then a 3-bit number. Okay? And then if we do that again, but with two 8-bit numbers, and we get a 4-bit input, and then we get these two 16-bit outputs. And then if we do it again, we get a 5-bit input, and then we get this 32-bit output. And essentially that's where we are right now. So it's a cascading decoder. And so this is it. This is just 8 inputs. This is what the circuitry looks like. If you want to copy this yourself, please feel free to screenshot, pause the video, whatever. This is what the decoder looks like. It's simple. And so yes, all of this is in our program counter. So our program counter is, our control unit, our control unit is pretty much just a decoder orchestrating what happens at what time. And as you can see, I done a lot. So we were on this last time. See the computer, I call it Luna because I just like Latin names, so we're gonna call it Luna. This is the Luna computer, and I'm trying to see what else that we did. Now I can really explain. Oh, let's go with the opcodes. Okay, let me go and do the opcodes. So I'm gonna look at this paper. There'll be a screenshot up on the screen, so you can kind of go along with me. So the first 9 opcodes are store commands. So we can store to different stuff, store different registers. The accumulator, well, it was the instruction register too whenever it was there, but I deleted it. And then to RAM. We want to store to RAM. We have a little key for that too. Register F. Register F connects directly to the ALU. That is our temporary register. So very key, very important. Now we go to math. We just have the math opcodes, which is add, subtract, multiply by 2, divide by 2, and or XOR not, whatever. Then we have our buses, so we can enable different registers to be able to write on the bus in the ALU. So 18, we enable the ALU to write. 19, we enable A, 20, B, whatever, so on. Then we have 25 disables all registers. So you can combine those two together since not more than one can write at the same time. It doesn't really matter if which one you turn off. You just turn off all of them at the same time. And then we have disabled ALU too. Now we can go to the jumps. And the jumps is really what makes this a turning complete computer because we can do different logic. And essentially if we have unlimited memory, unlimited RAM, whatever, we can program whatever the hell we want this thing to do. But we have halt, which halts in the jumps command because it freezes the program counter. Then we have just normal jump if the overflow is high, jump if it's negative, jump if A equals B, if A is greater than B. Oh man, this is the same thing. I'm gonna erase this. And then 33 is if B is greater than A. Then we have data. So 35, we toggle the data tri-state buffer on and off. And then we have GPU. So 36 is we write to the GPU, and 37 is refresh the GPU. And you might notice under this, you have the little GPU settings. So I did fool around with the GPU a little bit, and just in order to design characters. So the memory mapping for different numbers is shown on the GPU thing. So one's memory mapping is from address 0 to address 3, and so on. So like 6's memory mapping is from address 36 to address 45. And pretty much the memory mapping, all it does is it lights up different LEDs on the little LED matrix that we have in order to display the correct number whenever we want. Because we're not going to use a 7-segment display because we want to be able to display more information than just numbers. Like if we want to make a game or some type of application, which hopefully we can do that. This is why we want to do this. So another thing too, that I'm thinking about it, is the 808, we have a data input and then an opcode input. So on the original 808, we did not have that. They all share one input, and the control unit kind of kept track of which one was coming in. Was it opcode or was it an operand? Not doing that. I thought about doing that, but that would be like a kind of a timing nightmare. And we're not limited on resources really, since it's a simulation. So we're gonna have 2 different ones. And you might be thinking too, well, the ROM is 16 bytes, so why are we like splitting it up like this? And that's because it makes it a hell of a lot easier to code. Because if I want the number one, all I gotta do is type the number one. Instead of right here, if I wanted the number one, then I would have to add essentially whatever this is to what uh whatever 256 is plus like times two. You know what I mean? Because we're going into 16-bit territory now, so it just makes it easier to code. The interrupts are still not in yet because I don't know what the hell to do. I don't really know how that works. The inputs, like making a little like keyboard or control for this, is going to be hard. It's going to be piss hard. I don't know how to do that yet. So we're going to take our time with this. We're going to make the GPU, I guess, at least first. Essentially, but yeah, the only bad thing with the GPU is like if we want characters, we had to do a lot of character mapping. And I guess we will do that, but I don't know. It'd be hard to make a game like that though. But it's, I mean, I guess that's how modern games run too. I guess it's all based on character mapping, and then when you download the game, you just download the character map. So, maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll add like little little SSD cartridges so we can have different character mappings for different stuff, which might be happening. But we'll have I guess the classic character mappings, you could say. So that's essentially how this works. Um, oh boy, what the fuck? Actually, I said that. Sorry, I don't know why the hell this is not working. Hmm. Oh, it's because this wasn't on. My bad, guys. Yeah, so it does work. Yeah, there are still little glitches. Um, but yes. So that is the end of this video. Um, yeah. So future videos coming up. Just so y'all know a little bit of game plan. We're gonna finish this first. This is the number one priority for the YouTube channel is finishing this computer because this is the cool series. And then we have, if you see on the wall, this is the transistor computer wall now. So we're going to make a video about how I made the PCB transistor computer once I get all the opcodes to kind of work properly, but everything else works. So the registers work, the flip-flops work, adders work, and so on. So just got to get a little bit left and we're done. But thank you so much for watching. Next video, we'll have the full character mapping complete, the full GPU complete, and then we'll add it to our 8080 so we can make a better Luna computer. But thank you so much for watching.